Good morning, my YouTube viewers. It's Palestine here. I wanted to make another video for you. And in this video, I want to pose the question is, should the mental health profession be held accountable for my cancer? And I know it seems quite odd that I'm making all these videos about all these people that I feel need to take some responsibility for the fact that I got cancer. But it really is true. All of these things that I'm talking about really did happen. They really did occur. And I feel that a combination of everything that happened when I got no support um, caused my cancer. So I think it wasn't just one thing that caused my cancer. I think it was a culmination of things that caused me to get cancer. And the mental health profession is one profession that needs to be held accountable. And the reason why is because when I was hounded out of my job at Foster Wheeler, I was really terrified that because I got ran out of my job, I was terrified that I was going to get run out of my apartment as well and be made homeless. And so I was having a panic attack. And somehow or other, I got a hold of the crisis team. Somebody told me to ring the crisis team, which was not good advice. The crisis team isn't really that helpful unless you're actually in a real mental health crisis. But I had a legitimate reason to be upset because I had been hounded out of my job at Foster Wheeler, and I was worried I was going to be hounded out of my home as well. And then what was I going to do? And so somehow or other, crisis team got a hold of me, and crisis team wanted to see me, and I didn't want to go see crisis team. My problems were real problems. They were real, genuine, legitimate problems. But crisis team just took it that they were mental problems. And I told the crisis team, I said, I don't want my friends to know the problems that I have. Well, I was talking about real, legitimate problems. And the crisis team was talking about mental problems. So they said that if I didn't go see them, that they were going to get a court order and make me go see them. So I went to see the crisis team, and then I told the crisis team what happened. I told the crisis team how unhappy I was. And they just, I thought they would listen to me. I gave them evidence of emails and things like that. And they just said, in the end, they just said that I was paranoid, and they wanted me to take these really strong psychiatric medication. And even though I hadn't done anything wrong, and that's the way they do it in the UK, is if once they get hold of you, they don't want to let you go because they want to stay in a job. They want to keep working. So they're going to say everybody's mentally ill, and their treatment is to drug you, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. And so I was the victim. But they weren't listening to me. They didn't investigate any of the things that I said, and they just said I was paranoid. And I remember when I was sitting in the waiting area of the crisis team, and this was before I realized what an unhelpful organization it is. And I was talking to this lady, and this lady says, "Oh, well, I hope you get the help you need." People just assumed that I was nuts. And that's what Foster Wheeler did. Foster Wheeler did all these things to make it look like I was crazy. And I don't really want to go into detail about the things that Foster Wheeler did, or the things that the people I live with did, or the things that other people did, because I don't want to give anybody ideas. So if I say, well, they did this, 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 and this, then somebody else might decide, hey, well, it happened. They got away with it once. Let's see if we can get away with it again. And so that's why I don't really want to say all the things that they did, but they did a lot of things. They harassed me at work and they harassed me outside of work. And they followed me around in the town I live in and outside the town I live in and even on a cruise ship. And I got no support. So then the crisis team said I was paranoid, but although they didn't investigate, that's the problem. These psychiatrists, they just say you're mentally ill, but they don't investigate it to see if what you're saying is true or not. And I would like to digress a little bit. There's this lady on LinkedIn and Facebook, and her name is Dr. Jessica Taylor, and she talks about how women who've been abused, how they're gaslighted and told that they're mentally ill, and that's exactly what happened to me, that I was gaslighted and told that I was mentally ill. And so, I would highly recommend, if you're on LinkedIn or Facebook, you look up Dr. Jessica Taylor and you read some of her posts. And she talks about how women who are victims of abuse are told they're mentally ill. And that's exactly what was done to me, exactly what the mental health profession did to me. And then so basically, someone from CMHT came to see me, and at that time I still believed they were going to help me. I didn't know that they weren't interested in helping me, that they just thought I was doolally. And so I told the lady the things that they did, and she says, well, you just imagined it. They didn't know. They didn't know that I just imagined it. They just didn't want to investigate. They didn't want to see if what I was saying was true or not. So they imagined it. And then I got really upset and I refused to see the people from CMHT again. And so then I wrote a letter to David Cameron, and I didn't know that David Cameron was friends with Samira Brico. And so David Cameron had me sectioned to try to carry on the charade that I was mentally ill. And so that was my first experience of getting sectioned. And, you know, one of the things that they would do is they would send me emails, and they would jumble up the emails and things like that. And so the people, the psychiatrist said, there's no software that can change an email after it's been sent. And so that's why they were saying I was paranoid. That's true, but there may not be any software that can change an email after it's been sent. But what you can do is you can go into somebody's email account. You can hack into somebody's email account, and you can set that email account to where that email will go to another person, and that other person can read that email and even make changes to the email. And then when they've done that, then they can approve for the email to be sent to you. And I know that can happen because when I was working for this firm of lawyers, they were reading all my emails as well. So it can't happen. So maybe you can't change an email after it's been sent, but after the email has been sent to its desired location, another person can open up that email, they can read it, and they can make any changes, and they can approve it to be sent to the recipient. Now I know that. And so these mental health professionals, psychiatrists, are trying to get in the way of information technology and are trying to muscle in on data science and things that they know nothing about. So they didn't want to investigate what I was saying, but they wanted to say that I was mentally ill, and then they wanted to talk about emails. So that was the first time I got sectioned. And then the second time I got sectioned, because I talked about it a couple of videos ago, it was because the people that I live with had been saying things about me. And again, so what would happen is they said that there were some instances which I can't really talk about it, but I wasn't happy with some people who I knew professionally, and I just commented on that. And they said, well, because they said, well, these people aren't like that, so obviously you're mentally ill. Obviously, you're mentally ill. And I just said some people weren't very nice. That's all I said. And they said, well, these people aren't like that, so obviously you're mentally ill. And then so what they did was they jacked up this medication. They said, well, we're going to increase this medication until you change your mind. That's what they did to me. They jacked up the medication to the highest level that they possibly could jack it up to get me to change my mind. I mean, how appalling is that? How disgusting is that? And then finally, after 2 months, I got out of Prospect Park, and then I had to see a community mental health team, because the thing is the people that I lived with were saying things about me, and the people that I lived with said that I did things that I didn't do. But I don't want to talk about what they said that I did that I didn't do, because I don't want to give anybody any ideas. But I didn't do it. But they said that, and then so I was having to see a community mental health nurse every couple of weeks, and they said that even though they agreed, they finally admitted that they believed the people I lived with were partly responsible for what was going on. They were telling me that I had to move house, but no help, got no assistance. They just told me I had to move house, but I got no assistance to move, no help to move. And I can't move. I don't have the money to move. I can't afford to move. The only thing that I can do is go on the council housing list and try to get an accommodation with the council housing list. But where I'm living is cheaper than the council housing list, so I have to stay here. But that was their solution. That was the psychiatrist's solution, was to make me move, even though they knew that the people I lived with were partly responsible for what was going on. Their solution was to make me move. So what was going to happen if I moved somewhere else and people started doing things again? What were they going to do? Were they going to section me again and make me move again? So the mental health profession is totally incompetent, totally inept. I mean, if you are genuinely mentally ill, then maybe they might be of some use. But if you're not mentally ill, or not mentally ill the way that they say you are, and they just say you're mentally ill and they drug you, that's their treatment plan, is to drug you. And they don't investigate. They don't do any research. They don't investigate to find out if it's true. I could go back to them and I could say about Foster Wheeler, I say, yeah, you said Foster Wheeler was a nice place to work. Come to find out, they were investigated by the Serious Fraud Office, and they had to pay all these millions of pounds in fines, and come to find out they had corrupt practices in Brazil, India, Nigeria, Malaysia, and Saudi Arabia. And I could say, yeah, you're saying it's a nice place to work. No, it's not a nice place to work. These are the corrupt practices that people know about. We're not even getting into the corrupt practices that haven't seen the light of day. So, but they're never going to admit that they were wrong. They're never going to admit they were wrong, that they didn't investigate when they should have. And they just said I was mentally ill and they pumped me full of drugs. They're never going to admit that. So, whenever COVID hit, I couldn't see the mental health team anymore, which was fine with me. I didn't want to see them anyway. And now I've been discharged to my GP, but I don't even want to see my GP because the GP was one of the people that had me sectioned as well. So I don't want to see any medical professionals. But now I've got cancer. I have to see medical professionals for the cancer. But I don't want to see any medical professionals if I don't have to. And so that's it. You know, I feel that the mental health profession is culpable in my diagnosis of cancer. And the reason why is because they didn't investigate what I told them. And they just said that I was mentally ill, which caused me a lot of stress and anguish. And even my own family is saying I'm mentally ill because of what these people have done. And my own family, and I've talked about my other instances, you know, like my sister making YouTube videos and talking about me on YouTube videos, which she shouldn't be doing that. She shouldn't be doing that. And she's saying, she says I'm mentally ill. And it's the mental health profession has done this to me because they didn't investigate. They didn't investigate what I said, and they just gave me a blanket diagnosis. I'm not going to say what it is, but they just gave me a blanket diagnosis. And I got no support, no support. I got support from the mental health community for them thinking I'm a crazy person, but I didn't get support from the mental health community for being a victim of crime, which is what I am, a victim of crime. And I don't get support from my family. You know, even my sister, the one that makes YouTube videos and says things about me in the videos, even she says that I'm mentally ill because of what these people have done. And so what I would recommend is give this mental health profession a wide berth. They're not helping most people. They definitely didn't help me. And when you have an appointment with a mental health professional, try to bring someone with you to the appointment so they can listen to what's being said. And so that mental health professional won't be able to lie, say that you said things that you didn't say that you did things that you didn't do, and say that you're mentally ill. That's what I would suggest you do. And I think that all the stress and anguish that the mental health team has caused me has contributed to me getting cancer. And that's why I wanted to make this video. So if you like my video, please like and subscribe. And I'll be making another video for you soon. As you'll see, I'm making all these videos. So lots and lots of things happened. And that's why I'm having to make a video for everything that's happened. And all of these things that have happened have accumulated to cause me stress and trauma to give me cancer. But I'm having to make all of the videos individually. I certainly can't talk about on one long video about everything they did. That's why I'm making lots of small videos. So thank you again for watching my video, and I will be doing another video soon.